This is Cinematic Suffering, where we watch every horror movie streaming on Netflix, from A to Z, for better or worse. Life is pain, and so are bad horror movies. Now, I was thinking, well, what do you think Eli Roth's hand was in this whole movie?
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to speak to you about our friend Eli Roth. He's not really our friend. I wish he was my friend. I love, hate his movies. I think this is my assumption. He's married to the lead actress.
Oh, I didn't know that. Who was the lead actress?
Stunning. That Chilean girl that's in Knock Knock, and what is her name? Her name is Lorenza Izzo. That gorgeous girl with the big brown eyes that played the drum in that. He's married to her.
Oh, okay.
And that other fat bastard that played Polo in this was also in The Green Inferno.
Oh, okay.
So I think that he married a Chilean, which came with her extended Chilean family, and he puts all these hapless fucking idiots in his movies, and then he goes to film in Chile because he has a free place to stay and inflicts us with shitty ass movies. So I think that's his hand in it. His credits are that he worked on the story, which means he gave them a fucking half-ass plot outline in between lines of coke and shots of rum or whatever the fuck he was doing on vacation. I think that he parlayed a vacation into a movie and paid for some of the vacation budget with his half-ass movies that he's been making.
Yeah, don't worry about it. I got it. I'm gonna call your brother. We're gonna get this shit done again. All right, I think he answered. Yo, Rodrigo, buddy. I know you're there, man. I know you're there. Come on, I can hear you breathing. I recognize you're breathing anyway.
Do you know what time it is here? Do you know? Do you look at the fucking clock?
Dude, Rodrigo, chill, man. We're just having a killer time here in the States, and hey, you remember me though, man? I was the Bear Jew. Remember that? In Glorious Bastards. Remember that, dude?
Yes, I know. You bring it up every fucking time we talk.
Well, I just wanted to let you know that I'm still important, and I've worked with Brad Pitt.
Yeah, well, you're no Brad Pitt. What do you want, Eli?
Look, man, I was talking to your sister, and, you know, she's right here, and we've been talking about maybe putting together a project, and, hold on, let me get some more beer. Anyways, this party's off the hook. You really need to be here. Anyways, like I said, we have this killer thing that we were thinking about, we get a couple of her girlfriends, we'll put them all in, hot bikinis, and we'll come down there to Chile and just film, this cool project, because I know you got hookups in the industry down there, and be like, maybe we could, work something out. What do you think? Yes? No?
No, I don't. But, how much money do you have to bring to this project?
I think I have, let's see, hold on. Oh, shit, I'm dropping my money. I got about 300 pesos on me right now.
Okay, are you going to bring hot pussy and cocaine?
Yeah, I think that's pretty much all I'm good for nowadays, but yeah, I'm top of the shelf, man.
Okay, then I guess come on over. You can stay at my brother's house. I fucking hate you, Eli. Just know this. If you weren't married to my sister, I would never talk to you.
Click.
That was a vaguely kind of Chilean accent. It
was beautiful. I liked it.
Fuck it. I mean, see, that's the thing. Yeah, I think Eli has great taste in women, but every straight guy with a certain amount of connections and money does. He's a filmmaker that's admittedly made some of my favorite horror movies of that era, but there's certain things that I find contemptible about the man too. He's inflicted us with some truly shitty movies.
Yeah, I mean, it's I like I said, we've seen some good stuff from him, and we've seen very bad stuff. I mean, I would say Cabin Fever, the original Cabin Fever, is
loved it.
I loved it. It's a piece de resistance, especially the pancake scene, but it's odd. It's just an odd film. His Hostel movie, he did Hostel, right?
He did Hostel 1 and 2. He did Knock Knock. He did, what else was he responsible for? He's, like he put his fingerprint on the horror genre, was kind of a benchmark for a minute. Like, and that's kind of what makes Aftershock kind of confounding. So, but before we get into shitting all over Aftershock too much, let's go ahead and set this up. I am Clay.
I am Jason.
That's right. And our premise here was cinematic suffering. This is the Cinematic Suffering Podcast. And what we do here is we go through the Netflix horror movie catalog, A through Z, and we review those fuckers alphabetically, come what may.
Come what may, and this is not a spoiler-free podcast. We are going to be revealing everything in this movie, so we're hoping that you've watched this already, and you can share this experience with us.
That's right. Here are your options. You watch it and then you listen to the podcast. You don't watch it and you never listen to the podcast, or you listen to this instead of watching the movie, which sometimes is preferable. I'm not going to tell you what I suggest you do with this one yet.
Well, I think I have a pretty good idea what you should do with this one.
Gee, spoiler. So, okay, we are reviewing Aftershock. Aftershock was released in 2012. It's a Chilean movie. It's directed by Nicolas Lopez, stars Eli Roth, Andrea Osvart, Ariel Levy, Natasha Yorovenko, Nicholas Martinez, Lorenzo Izzo, fucking gorgeous, and Marcial Toggle.
Yes, and beautiful women throughout this entire film.
Full exotic women with sexy, sultry, buttery accents. Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, accents from all over the world. We have a Russian girl, we have an American girl, we have the sister of the American girl who's Hungarian for some reason.
Yeah, a Chilean girl playing an American girl, which, like I didn't know until I did a little bit of research that she was Chilean.
Yeah, I had no idea.
And starring a bunch of witless, contemptible fucking dudes that are just either fat and hateable, or walking stereotypes and hateable, just contemptible motherfuckers that I was just praying for the earth to open up and swallow them. Since the movie was Aftershock, we knew that was going to happen at some point.
Yeah, at some point I was hoping for the earth to swallow them whole, but we didn't get that exactly, but we got close enough, which is
we got close enough. The wrong people were violated, but we'll get into that.
Yeah, so this is, of course, it takes place in Santiago, Chile, at the beginning at least, and we see like this big partying montage of Eli Roth and his friends partying up at a club, some kind of rave, I guess.
Yeah, it was colored like the Electric Daisy Carnival on acid, the kind of shit that I would claw my own eyes out if I had to spend 10 minutes at. But our three main male characters are Gringo. He's the neurotic Jewish dude played by Eli Roth. We've got Polo, which is the fat dude. And if you haven't watched the movie yet, imagine a Chilean Zach Galifianakis.
Yeah.
And then you got Polo. And then the third dude is this pussy whip dude, Ariel. That's also bearded dude. And so those are our three main characters. It reminded me of a typical kind of hostile setup. You got the American, which is the Jewish guy, and then the two locals, the Chilean dudes with the sexy Chilean accents.
Yeah, it had that setup where it's just going to be a party kind of city, and then it will take a turn for the worst. Unfortunately, that turn for the worst doesn't happen until about 40 minutes in. So,
we got to spend a lot of time with these fuckheads before we get some earthquake action.
Yeah, and pretty much all this stuff building up is supposed to be some kind of character development, but the entire time will the earth just start moving? Let's start rumbling and get this shit on. But no,
I was praying to the Earth Mother Gaia, please, Mother Gaia, open up your righteous hell mouth and swallow these witless fuckheads. But no, it didn't happen for a while. And this movie makes the mistake that a lot of contemporary horror movies make, is that instead of what you should do, what in my opinion you should do, is make your characters really cool and really likable and really affable, and so that means that their suffering has weight. It has gravity. Instead, they make them contemptible and you can't wait for them to die, which sounds like it would work, but it fucking doesn't, because it makes the movie a slog to get through.
Yeah, and one of the first slogs we have to get through is after we see this stupid montage of them partying, they're on a tour of a vineyard, and we see one of the first ancillary padding characters that has nothing else to do with anything in this movie, which is the tour guide, and we think, oh, there's going to be some kind of little action between Eli
Yeah.
Roth, the gringo, and this girl because she bends over and she has like a Wu-Tang Clan tramp stamp on her back.
That looks like it was drawn on 5 seconds before they started filming.
Yeah, and of course, they jump on the chance, the opportunity. Pollo brings up this picture on his phone and shows him with RZA, one of the Wu-Tang members, and it's just this bad Photoshop. And she's like, "Oh, are you bringing the Wu-Tang Clan here to Chile?" And he's like, "Yes." And
Yeah, I'm close friends with the RZA, and it was kind of like, I got to admit that was kind of funny. It didn't really hit, but it was a joke that had good intention. Like, he shows the tour guide a really badly photoshopped photo of him hanging out with RZA. And so you're like, all right, this may be funny, but you're filled with trepidation. Like, this might suck. I'm feeling like I might hate these people.
yeah, and so that pretty much goes nowhere. We just know it's a tour, and the two friends I think it's Pollo. They call him Pollo.
Pollo's the fat Galifianakis.
Yeah,
Just
and,
imagine when we say pollo.
yeah.
Like it's a dish I order at the Cuban restaurant, but anyway, pollo is the fat Zach Galifianakis character. He's I said his name wrong, and I'll continue to. He's like the rich fat kid, and I say fat because I hate him, and I can't think of a more mature way to really tell you.
And they're obviously hungover. Ariel and Pollo are hungover. They don't want to be on this tour, and Eli Roth's just kind of like Gringo is acting like a tourist. But that doesn't even matter because the scene means nothing. And we go.
I know it means nothing, and I gotta say, like, what better way to really build momentum in your movie than to start it off with a tour of a fucking vineyard?
Yeah, exactly. And to see them actually wine tasting, and we're off from the races here, folks. So
Oh yeah, it's all engines ahead, like full power. So, all right, after the pointless vineyard. The vineyard was a good point. It was a good way for us to establish that Eli Roth's character is about the most contemptible motherfucker I've seen in a minute. I've got to say that, okay, I checked the timeline here. He went from playing the Bear Jew in Inglourious Bastards, this tough motherfucker that stoves the head in of zombies, this Jewish guy, to playing the most insulting Jewish stereotype I've ever fucking seen.
I just have to correct you. He didn't stove the head in of zombies. He stoved in the head of Nazis.
Did I say zombies?
You said zombies. You got zombies.
That must be a Freudian slip.
Yeah, he just and I'm not saying it's a bad performance, but I don't know what he was.
It's a bad
thinking.
character.
Yeah.
He wears a Johnny Depp level of eyeliner too, which makes you hate him even more.
So he crushes on one of the main girls that shows up in this film, some Russian girl, and it doesn't matter. He gets a call from his daughter. We know he's got a daughter. He says he's going to be home soon. He, for some reason, meets Selena Gomez in the bar. I don't know if you know who that is.
I do now that you said her name. I was really glad that basically what we're talking about, after the vineyard, we smash cut to a party, to like this awful fucking like dance party with too much neon and too much horrible like electronic dance music. And Eli Roth, remember the joke the bit that Chris Rock did about being the old guy in the club? Like, you never want to be the old guy in the club. Like, he's not old, he's just too old to be in the club. That was Eli Roth's character. He doesn't look old, but he's too old to be hanging around with these young fuckable people.
Yeah, and this scene with Selena Gomez was just kind of out of the blue, and I even read on IMDb it was just that scene was improvised, I guess, because she was in the area at the moment, or they just threw her in there. I just recognized her. I was like, oh god.
I vaguely recognized her, and you know what made me feel good is that I didn't completely recognize her because I'm not a fucking sex criminal. And watching him hit on her was so uncomfortable because he mentioned his daughter already, and I'm thinking, is this girl about the age of your daughter? And then it's like, oh no, it's a movie. You were supposed to suspend disbelief to a painful degree. So he hits on Selena Gomez unsuccessfully, thankfully.
Yeah.
Dear Christ. So she goes away to make horrible Illuminati music for Disney. And we continue on with the party. We meet the rest of we finally at this point we meet the women of the cast.
Yeah, the women made a brief appearance at the very beginning, and then the guys, Pollo, Ariel, and Gringo, recognize the girls, and they get them into this club. And two of the girls are sisters. One's has a Hungarian accent, and the other one is just an American. It has an American accent, but apparently she's from Chile. But
so we got 3 dudes and 3 girls. These are the
Yeah.
3 girls. We got the drunk as fuck Kylie. She's played by Lorenza Izzo,
Yeah.
excuse me, who's like I don't want to over tag it, but she's fucking gorgeous.
Yeah.
She plays Kylie. She plays the drunken younger sister to Monica, who has this inexplicable accent, but is allegedly her sister. And her sister plays the buzzkill, cock blocking older sister that doesn't want her to have any fun or catch any strange dick. Then the third girl is the hot Ukrainian chick, Irina, played by a hot Ukrainian chick.
Okay.
Whose name is Natasha Yorovenko. That doesn't matter. So you got drunken American, played by a Chilean, extraneous knowledge, her older sister, Monica, and a hot Ukrainian girl. So
Right.
3 hot ladies.
We've got this is the fucking United Nations of club meetups here.
Oh yes, it's it, and it goes to show us that being a vapid dickhead is something that happens across the world. There's no international borders.
There's no borders. This is a globalization of dickheads, douchebags.
There's no borders when it comes to being a fuckface that goes to a dance club to listen to 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4.
So we see them all go out, and there's another montage of them exploring. It's a gorgeous city, and the landscape is just beautiful.
Chile. If this movie was meant to make you visit Chile, it was beautiful, beautiful land. It looks like great people. Our schmuck main characters are not them, but like it looks like I'd love to visit Chile with somebody that knows the local hot spots.
Yeah, it would be amazing. But this brings up one of the most amazing parts of this film is the pool scene where we get to see the gratuitous shots of the girls in their bikinis.
Yeah, and I mean, this is a moment where I feel like a great amount of confliction because how do I word this? It's like I love female nudity, but when it's presented in a way that's just smacked across your lips like a wet raw steak, I find it kind of insulting to my intelligence. And that's kind of what happens here. We get the pool scene of the girls, and there's just this shot of Miss Izzo's ass, as it ascends from the water. And it's like, okay, I think your proctologist knows just a little bit better than I do now. And that's, I mean, it's I don't want to act like some kind of politically correct person because I'm not, but it's just like, how does this matter?
Yeah, I just felt like such a lech watching this specific scene because I was like, oh, maybe I should just take a quick break here and go look up some stuff on the internet.
And that's the thing. Pornography is honest. You can never claim that pornography has some kind of shitty agenda. And it's weird when a movie kind of deviates into that way. But anyway, and I'm a hypocrite because I like the female form, so I'm kind of glad that it was in there. But at the same time, it was pointless. Like, why would you take a tour of a city and then it's like, we got to hit the pool? Like, what pool? Where are we?
But we spent enough time in this.
We have. I mean, like I wrote in my notes, and we don't have to ponder it anymore. But like, I just want to share what I put in my notes. I put passing side note: has a proliferation of instant pornography made obligatory nudity in horror movies kind of pointless? My opinion is a resounding no. I'm changing that opinion as we're talking. Let's move on.
Okay, so as we're moving on. They got to get their good times out of the way, I guess, before the horror starts. I'm putting that in quotes. So I really think this movie was mislabeled. It's not a horror movie per se, but anyways,
It's a horror movie.
it's a horror movie. They arrive at a tourist spot that will take them on some kind of tram or cable ride car up the mountain a little bit.
I don't know if they're going to the mainland or if they're going. I don't know the topography of Chile, but they're going to a secondary location that you can only reach by cable car.
Yeah, and of course they treat the cable car operator like a piece of shit. And well, actually, the cable car operator kind of acts like a dick, anyways. But
Yeah.
so they get in this cable car. They go up the mountain. Of course, the operator, puts the brakes on them as they're halfway up the mountain and scares them a little bit, and then lets them go. I was like, good one, bro. So they do more touristy stuff. They visit an old graveyard. Apparently, there's a mention of tunnels that lead to an old church. And
This part is important. Yeah, like we get to the tour of the graveyard, and Ariel, the guy who's he's his backstory is that he's pussy whipped and he's trying to get back with his girlfriend. And he's always on the phone with her. It doesn't matter. Yeah. But the backstory that he gives about this graveyard is that the monastery that you can see off in the distance, that's also important. This is delivered with the foreshadowing of a Mike Tyson uppercut, by the way. It's this monastery back in the day. Ariel tells us the nuns and the priests used to fuck like rabbits, have a bunch of bastard children, murder them, and bury them in the catacombs that are also intertwining all underneath our feet here. And it's kind of like, all right, that's interesting. That's horrifying.
I thought it was an interesting story. I was like, oh, yeah, because I could actually imagine that shit actually happening. But the older sister, the Hungarian, I don't even know her name, but
Monica.
Yeah, we learned that Monica is she's claustrophobic. She doesn't like dead babies. Oh, who does? But
and she doesn't like dead babies because she had an abortion. We find out later too. Yeah. That's interesting. These are some deep, rich characters that you can't wait to see fucking die.
So they, of course, go to another rave and party that night under, I guess, in this basement. And we get to see the tour guide from the vineyards at the party, our Wu-Tang girl. And Gringo notices, and we see her, and I was like, oh, okay, is this going to be like they're going to hook up, and, he's going to strike out with this Russian girl, because Gringo, Eli Roth's character, is trying to hook up with a Russian girl. And but it turns out the vineyard tour guide girl is a jerk as she pushes some cleaning lady's cart over when she's coming out of the bathroom. And I was like, oh, okay, this was odd.
I'm glad you noticed that, because it vanished in the tapestry of like neon crap that was poking me in the eyeballs by this point. We're in a rave. Everybody's half naked, and I know everybody's half naked in a rave, but they're half naked in a way that people at a rave aren't. I don't know. I've never been to one, so maybe I'm old and talking bullshit, but they were like wearing bikinis and stuff. Everybody was like, there was this obligatory amount of just cameras right in people's friggin' pink parts.
Oh yeah, that camera was not shy at all about getting those close-up ass shots of everyone at the rave. Yeah. Which again, I don't know. I'm not really complaining about it, but at the same time, it was distracting. But it just conflicts with. Yeah,
it leaves one with a bunch of conflicted feelings. I mean, like, I don't know. I'm an older guy, but I'm trying to be somewhat cognizant of people's feelings and the current climate that we live in, and horror movies leave you with a lot of conflicted feelings in that way.
So we learned that the vineyard tour guide girl, Wu-Tang girl, is just a complete jerk, and that has no. We don't see it. I mean, we see her later, of course, but that'll come later. But yeah, it's just a vapid scene. Why she was even included, except for padding, I don't know. Maybe she was a friend of Eli Roth
it was somebody he was trying to fuck, or he was covering up the knowledge that he had fucked her. That was it's the only thing I can think of. Hey, can we take a real quick break while I pee right quick? Sorry, man.
Is this part of the podcast?
No, it's for real. But it could be in the podcast. I don't care.
Okay, yeah, I need to get a drink of water anyways.
Okay, I'll be right back.
All right.
2 hours later.
You hear that? Oh, you didn't hear that. probably didn't hear it. Well, yeah, in the very first episode, you could hear the uncorking of a cork, and that was totally a bourbon bottle. Anyway.
Are you drinking another bourbon bottle right now?
Yeah, it helps.
Okay.
Anyway,
so there's like a scene we know that the tour guide is a jerk, but there's a scene where we see Gringo and the Russian girl are dancing, and this scene was really funny to me because the music is very low, the audio is very low, and their voices are very high, and they're pretending to yell even though the music is really low and have this conversation. But that's not really the funny part. The funny part is that there's feet clopping in the background, like dancing. So it's like, hi, how are you? And it's just, it sounds like feet clopping. And I was laughing my ass off. I was like, what, did they really have to include people clopping on the floor dancing? Is this
I think that the whoever that they hired to do the audio engineering for this was just like, look, if you don't pay me, you're gonna be able to hear in this.
It's gonna sound like there's a herd of horses coming into the sound studio as we do this ADR.
Don't fuck with your audio guy. Like I saw like footage of like Courtney Love, her guitar isolated because she fucked over the audio guy, and I'm convinced that's what happened here.
Yeah, and then then again another character comes out that has no bearing on this movie whatsoever. He's just another ancillary. Some nerd named Russell comes out, and the crowd parts for him like he's some kind of dance god, and he just started dancing stupidly. I felt like he was like Crispin Glover's dance scene in Friday the 13th Part 4.
I was confounded by why he was in this movie. He looked vaguely familiar. He looked like somebody that I've hated elsewhere. I can't recall he's. If I did some research, he looked familiar, but he looks like somebody that his character was somebody that had money and probably put on this shindig.
Yeah, I think it was character-wise. I think Pollo knew this guy, but this guy comes out like he owns the club, or he's like the promoter, or whatever's happening, and he starts dancing like an idiot, and he eventually just steals the Russian girl away from Gringo, and because they can both.
Gringo's like, golly.
Yeah, he's like, I was supposed to get laid, and you promised I was going to get laid, and this guy takes off on my girl.
I wore a plunging neckline, and you can see my Jew chest hair and everything. But by the way, by this point in the movie, if you're playing Jewish stereotype bingo, you're almost on O, because like Eli Roth's character has hit them all. It's fucking contemptible. Like I've been friends with quite a few Jews in my life. They don't fucking act like this. I don't know why Jewish people get into movies and then proliferate their own stereotypes, and he's hateable in every fucking regard.
And this is a thing I should say, that when we say Jew, when we're saying Jew, we're not meaning as a derogatory. This is the characters themselves that are acting like this and mentioning it, saying, "Oh, they don't want to do it because we're Jews," and stuff like that, and just like, why wouldn't they want to sell you goods because you're? I mean, it just doesn't make sense.
It's fucking hateable. I mean, it's just contemptible. Like, I like Jews. I don't like Jewish stereotypes. And I mean, like, every Jew I've hung out with, they don't remind you of their kosher diet every 6 seconds. And they don't remind you that, like, I'm Jewish, so it's like blah, blah, blah. And that's this guy. I don't know how he went from playing the bear Jew to playing this guy.
Yeah, I was just about to mention that. I was like, I want more of the bear Jew. Mm-hmm. So Pollo and Gringo get mad at each other, and they have a little tiff because they both have lots of money and no one really likes them.
Your money should translate into pussy, is Pollo's argument.
Yeah. And so we see they get mad at each other, and then the sisters get mad at each other again, and then that's where we learn that the big sister had an abortion, and that daddy never loved her, and that she was here on this trip as a buzzkill, just to go, I don't know. I don't even know why she would be there if she didn't want to.
Oh God, I don't know. I mean, it's like basically what we learn is that Monica is there to cock block Kylie, and Kylie is the hot, wife of Eli Roth. Go look it up. And I'm convinced this is probably slanderous, but I don't give a shit. No one's going to come sue me. I'm convinced that Kylie's character, that her alcoholism was written into the movie because the actress herself was so apocalyptically shit-faced through the entire feature. You know how she acts. She acts like somebody that's so drunk that all they can do is do cocaine to stand upright. And she speaks like a Pomeranian that's been granted the gift of language by a wise mage very recently. I mean, literally, it doesn't sound like this to your ears, but this is how it sounds like to me when she's speaking. That's how it sounds.
Now, Kylie, you need to settle down. You know, Daddy wanted me to come on this trip with you, and we're gonna have a good time.
Honey, fuck everybody in here.
Okay, you're gonna fuck every. Okay, well, we're leaving right now. No, we're leaving. Come along. And then that's where the earthquake finally happens. 34 minutes in, we get to hear Kylie yelling that she's gonna fuck every guy in the club, and then
I wrote in large capital letters across my notes, thank Christ the fucking earthquake is here. Hopefully these people die soon. Like by this point in the movie, I had face palmed myself into a broken, bloody nose.
Yeah, and nothing leading up to this made me care for any of these characters whatsoever. And I was just, the real character in this movie is the earthquake, pretty much, and the scenery.
It should have been.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the earthquake finally happens. They're in an underground club, and the earthquake happens. And I got to hand it to the movie in this point. It was pretty good. Like, I thought so. Like, mortar and steel and heavy things drop from the ceiling, and all these witless, partying, fucking vapid, shallow assholes go scattering in all directions as Mother Nature smites them for their sinful ways.
And we see the ever elusive Russell, who is hitting on the Russian girl, get his comeuppance for stealing Gringo's girl by getting crushed under a large block of concrete as the crowd rushes over him to escape, and he gets crushed to death pretty much. And we all did
say it was a big chunk of styrofoam.
And we all did cheer and celebrate.
Yeah. Over the death of a character that they took no pains to really establish. But our main characters, our 6 main characters, kind of rush to the street level, or they try to get there. They meet a maid, some confounding character halfway.
This is the maid that we have to go back just a little bit. This is the maid that the vineyard tourist, the Wu-Tang girl, pushed away on her way back to the dance floor from the bathroom. So that's this cleaning lady. But we also see the Wu-Tang girl just get obliterated under a large piece of concrete that just kind of, you don't even see her. It's just, and I was like, oh, well, there goes that chance to have her in the mix as maybe a possible, I don't know, foil, an antagonist, or even a love interest that would have come up earlier. But they kind of established she's a jerk. She's going to die soon. So, whatever.
So she died.
Yeah. So her place in this picture really had no point whatsoever, and we move on.
Yeah, I mean, we established her for no reason, and then we killed her for no reason. So our 3 times 2, our 6 main characters, our 3 dudes, our 3 girls, take the maid up the stairs. There's this inexplicable ladder that leads to the street level. I would never go into this club for multiple reasons, because there's shitty dance music, and also because the only way you can get in and out is this fucking Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle hatch. But you get the maid, who's comically dressed like a maid, by the way, like a Chilean. If you think, okay, close your eyes and think Chilean maid, that's what she looks like. That lady is leading this group of people to the street. She pops her head up and gets it run over by a car right away. And if you watch the trailer, that's in the fucking trailer.
Oh, it is.
It's bad. It's bad form. But she gets her head squashed, and then she falls down dead to the floor, head smashed. And our characters are like, eek. Okay, well, let's go with that same ladder that killed that lady.
There certainly can't be other traffic that's heading on that street. That has to be the only car. And so they're going to head up out of the tunnels. I did think that scene was just really quick and awesome. Probably one of the few ones I actually enjoyed in this movie. But yeah,
That's why it was included in the trailer.
yeah, they find their way up into the street. No one has cell service because that's how these movies work. Some bum steal. Oh, we got to mention that Ariel, his hand got cut off.
Oh yeah, how did we forget that? Ariel, whose only purpose in this movie up until now was to be pussy whipped and obsessed with his ex-girlfriend, gets his hand cut off. Vaguely, we don't even know how. There's some piece of steel that cuts his hand off. His hand gets kicked across the dance floor 1,700 times by partygoers that are running for their lives, and it gets scooped up and put into Monica's purse. So Monica, who is trying to keep her younger sister from getting from succumbing to alcohol poisoning and getting AIDS, is also responsible for this cut off hand. Monica, they need to be following Monica. Monica needs to be the leader of this posse. So she puts Ariel's chopped off hand into her purse.
Right. So up to this moment, we're under the impression that Eli Roth's character Gringo is this kind of leader of the group, and that's up to this point. Now we see Kylie's character. Kylie approaches some bum about getting help. You can tell there's something obviously wrong with this guy that she approaches, and he looks at her and just basically steals the purse that had the hand in it and runs away. And for some reason, that was part of this storyline. This Ariel was just obsessed with his hand being gone, and then now the hand is stolen, and he screams about it and wails and gets freaked out, and that's when the tsunami warning horns start blaring.
Yeah, the earthquake has unleashed the tsunami that is, it should be called a foreshadow-anami.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
right.
It's and with the hand thing, like I make my living as a graphic artist. If I lost my right hand, it would be just fucking life ending.
Yeah.
And I know that if I lost that left hand in an earthquake, that unless I could get to the hospital in about 10 seconds, that hand is spilled milk. You can have the purse containing the hand.
Yeah. I mean, you could put it on some ice and maybe have some chance like that, but
I might be able to hold one of those novelty pencils that 2-year-olds learn to write with, but you're fucked if you're...
Yeah, pretty much.
So the whole movie, and like I just need to say at this point that the whole movie has established itself at this point in the movie as being like violence for the sake of dark comedy. It's not done well. None of the jokes land, but that's the feeling that I'm getting. That's the feeling that I got as the intention at this point. In the movie. And
it just and it gets darker. The violence at this point seems very over the top and comedic in some way, and it gets darker as we progress down the story. Again, more quotes. I like to do air quotes over here.
Well, I mean, they're impactful. They mean a lot. Right? They make their way to the street. And there's a bunch of looters in the street. Like we see that the street level of Chile after an earthquake means that everybody's stealing TVs, smashing storefronts, and they really need those LCDs.
Yeah, instant criminal. Everyone becomes an instant criminal after once the rule of law breaks down and there's an earthquake or some kind of natural disaster happens. I'm going to remember that once, the earthquake's over here. Because once we have the big one, I'm just going to go out and start stealing 50-inch screen LCD televisions. No, not LCD, 4K, I think.
4K, yeah.
I'm going to get my shopping list on my Amazon shopping list up, and then once it happens, I can just go out and loot.
If you live in the South, you go straight to the Costco and you steal yourself a 4K.
So they try to make their way to the tram again, and we see the tram operator is, not having any of because Pollo just kind of barrels his way through everyone, and everyone is injured and hurting, and then he tries to bribe the tram operator into letting his friend Ariel on because he's dying, I guess, because his hand off. But so the operator, after a little back and forth, lets Ariel onto the tram, and we see the tram rise up the mountain, and as per usual in all these disaster movies or horror movies, any cable that's attached to anything is pretty much made of licorice. I think we established that in 47 meters down.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the wonderful thing about this podcast for me is that I'm seeing horror movie tropes that I never noticed before.
Right.
If you are on a cable centric mode of transportation, you are double fucked. Like because they made it out of, like you said, dark licorice. Like no one wants to eat it, we might as well make our cable cars out of it. It starts smoking, it starts fraying, and then like handless Ariel, along with a bunch of women, children, and old people, I might add,
Yeah.
plummet to the ground and fucking die. Like, so that was, we got one character down. Like, it took us this long into this feature to get one casualty among 6 that I want all of them to die.
Right. So Ariel is now dead, and we get this big emotional scene from Pollo as he mourns his friend, and I was like, this is too little, too late, bro. Let's just. And then Gringo tries to convince him, "Hey, we need you. We need you to come along. No one here speaks Spanish, and we need you to guide."
I did laugh at that joke, by the way. Which again, the movie is trying to be funny. I thought.
As far as
working up to the part, it's okay. Like, Gringo says, like, none of us know Spanish. We need you to help us get. There's a tsunami coming. There's a tsunami coming. We don't know Spanish. We need you, Pollo. You're our bilingual. We need you to survive. I thought that was a funny joke. And again, I thought that they were making jokes at this point. I'm working up to the point in the movie where they fucking rape me as an audience member and cast member.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous because we see Gringo is just begging him, and then the Russian girl just comes up and just says, "Get off your ass, we're fucking going." So
he slaps his fat Zach Galifianakis face right across his fat cheek. God, I hated this fucker, man. I don't know why. Like, I hated all of them, but okay, the Russian girl, the Ukrainian girl. Sorry, Ukrainians. I know Ukrainians. They'll hate me for calling.
Yeah, it's kind of like New Zealanders not being called Australians and vice versa. So,
I'm an American, so fuck them. So anyway, she smacks him across the face, and then they rush to the next part of exposition. They're trying to get away from the tsunami that's encroaching them, and about this point in the movie is where the rape gangs show up.
Oh yeah.
Boy. Oh, the second act rape gangs. Why don't you tell us about rape gangs, Jason?
Well, you see, there's an announcement that just kind of floats through the city as they say that the prison has crumbled and all the prisoners are now free. So all the prisoners apparently are rapists. And I immediately just started calling them rapists because they saw the group of girls. They see Monica, they see Kylie and Ukraine girl, and they just start chasing them. Because they're like, oh, there's girls, let's go get them. And I was like, oh, these are rapists. Just run.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because an earthquake movie, like you established right away, is the antagonist of the movie should be the earthquake, not roaming rape gangs. Yeah. But I wasn't thinking about rape. I don't like thinking about rape. But hey, rape is foremost in my mind now.
And we have to remember that if you have a tattoo, then that means you are in a rape gang.
Oh, you are a rapist. You've been to prison and you rape people.
Yeah, so that's kind of being established right now by judging by people's tattoos. If you have a tattoo, then you're a rapist. If you don't have a tattoo, you're not a rapist. So. And
I realize this is kind of chaotic for our unfortunate listeners. This is where we're at. Like, there's an earthquake. They're on the street level. Rape gangs are following them. And martial law, which is very ineffective, but rape gangs rule the day.
Exactly. And so buildings start to crumble around them, and then we see the group takes a shortcut through the cemetery, and then there's an aftershock, as the name implies for the movie, and the group flails around like a bad episode of Star Trek, when the Enterprise is under attack, and then a big chunk of concrete falls on Gringo.
Thankfully. But he's not dead. It crushes Eli Roth's contemptible character. And keep in mind, if you've had trouble following up to this point, now I don't blame you if you have, like Gringo's character, imagine a Johnny Depp level amount of eyeliner on a Jewish stereotype that's just patently offensive in every way. He's crushed, so we all cheer a little bit, and he's crushed. But there's two girls with him, two just stunningly beautiful women from exotic places of the world that are about to get raped by an encroaching rape gang.
Yeah, Ukrainian girl stays there, and so does Kylie. While the other two, Pollo and Monica, go look for help for Gringo. But Gringo's spitting up blood very comically. Just, whoa, I'm dying. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Insert awful Yiddish here. That's kind of Eli Roth's character.
And
I will curse him till his dying day for being in this movie, by the way.
Yeah, this is, and it just keeps getting worse. They hear the rapist, and Gringo convinces the Ukraine girl and Kylie to go hide. So they go and hide in some of these mausoleums. And then we do a quick cut over to Pollo and the Hungarian girl. They try to stop a fire truck that's rushing towards them, but they just cause it to crash. And
it reminded me of Grand Theft Auto in that way, like, because I've usurped a couple of fire trucks in my day in Grand Theft Auto. That's what it reminded me of. The fire truck crashes, and then they try to get the driver out of the fire truck, but then the driver dies, and then the passenger, who's also dressed as a fireman, who we will forever and always call fireman from here on out, says, "Just don't fuck it. Let's just go. You get me out."
Yeah. So the driver is actually impaled by this wooden beam and obviously dying, if not dead already. And so the passenger, the other fireman, the fireman, tries to tell Zach Galifianakis to take a fire axe and just chop the wood up and get him out. And then we kind of do another quick flashback to the rapists are at Gringo's body, or at Gringo, and they discover that he's alive. They rob him, and then they ask where the girls are, I should say. And
yeah, we saw some prime real estate here. We need to get at that shit.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to virtue signal here, but this genuinely made me very uncomfortable. I mean, I don't know. I like the ladies in my life to be unraped, and there's a rape gang following two beautiful drunken rape victims, and they're hiding in the shadows, and they question Eli Roth's character. His last moment of nobility is to try to dissuade them from raping these women.
Right.
They left and he coughs up viscera and bone meal to be like, they left, they're not here, they're not hiding in the shadows trying not to get raped.
Yeah, he's like, they went to go get help. They went there. They keep saying he's lying. They torture him a little bit. They pour the main rapist just pours a bunch of, I guess, tequila or vodka over his face, some kind of liquor, and then lights a match.
Whatever lights on fire, whatever's high enough proof to go whoosh.
Yeah, and so he's threatened to burn him alive, and so he's still denying that. He's still saying the girls have gone to get help. They're not there. And then we do another flashback to the fire truck, and they eventually free the fireman. And
fireman.
Yeah,
that's his name.
Yeah, fire.
That's
they free
how
fireman.
It's listed in IMDb, by the way.
Okay.
Fireman.
They free fireman, and then we flash back, and the rapists are still there. They want to find these girls. I mean, I've been horny before. And a couple of times in my life I've been horny, and I've never wanted to chase down women in the streets like these guys wanted to.
Well, you're thinking you're approaching this from a non-rapist. You got to get in the mind of the character.
I wonder if there's like a Udemy course about how to be an effective rapist or something. I guess just.
I fucking hope not.
Yeah. Anyways, they still want to find the girls. They pour vodka or tequila on him, and eventually Gringo, like you said, this could be his moment of honor or glory before he, leaves this mortal coil. But instead, he sells the girls out.
He doesn't. He's like, they're over there. If you need some Brazilian wax trim, it's in the shadows.
Yeah. And so he sells them out. He just kind of looks over. He's like, yeah, they're kind of over there. And
if you call me an ambulance, I will tell you where they are.
It's like, Gringo, you're dead. Why are you selling the girls out? You just die a hero, at least. But nope, he doesn't do that. And the rapists find the Russian girl at least. and pull her out, and well, they start doing exactly what their namesake says.
They rape her. There's a fucking rape scene in this movie, and it like okay, like everything about this movie is inept and poorly conceived and poorly delivered. And now we have a rape scene. So now I've got to contend with this shit. This is in my head forever, you know. And so there's a rape scene. They rape the Russian girl. They rape the poor Russian girl, and you know, like it's done in this way that's disturbing, but not intentionally disturbing. It's disturbing because it's whoever delivered it doesn't understand the gravity of that awful act.
Yeah,
you know?
it's not Irreversible. The scene from Irreversible. It's not that shocking, but
it's not even the scene from I Spit on Your Grave 1, 2, or 3, or probably that last one that I refused to watch. Like those movies, it had context. Like it was delivered as some kind of awful scene that was pivotal to the plot. This, you didn't see it coming. You didn't know it was going to be there, and it, you know, I don't know. Again, I'm not trying to virtue signal. It bothered me.
Yeah, it was just not needed, I guess. It was just dumb. But
well, I mean, like I'll say that and I didn't mean to cut you off, but the threat of rape is just as impactful as an audience member as actual rape. You don't need to have it in there because it works on us. There's people chasing you. They have ill intention. We don't need it in there. It's not necessary. Like Eli Roth is better than this.
Yeah, it was unnecessary. It was exploitative. It was something you would see in something like an exploitation movie or something, where you would expect to see something like this, but this is just a cheap fucking movie that didn't need to have the actual scene. But yeah, you're right, the threat of it is just as horrifying as the actual act.
And I mean we're anyway, go ahead.
But Kylie takes off. She decides she's going to get the hell out of Dodge. The rapists see her leave and they shoot at her, and they decide to chase after her. So Pollo and his group return. Pollo, Fireman, and Monica return, and Pollo sees one of the rapists on the Ukrainian girl, and then he goes and chops that dude and kills him. And as he rescues Ukrainian girl, they all start running. The main rapists come back again after chasing Kylie, and they pretty much shoot Ukrainian girl in the back, and she dies immediately. So
so for anybody having trouble keeping up, she's been raped twice and shot once in the back.
Yeah, and she's dead. And it felt, it was just another useless scene. And I mean, I can understand like trying to show that, not only do you have to contend with the shock of a natural disaster and the things that come with that, the emergency situation, but it just seems like everyone turns fucking evil. It turns into an apocalyptic wasteland, like the Road Warrior or something.
I mean, and it doesn't make any sense because people literally eat people with like born out of the womb with an evil agenda haven't had time to be evil yet in this movie. Like we have an earthquake that was unexpected. We have an oncoming tsunami that was unexpected. Even rapists, like people that wake up with like rape on their mind, aren't thinking about rape at this moment. Like it's such a fucked up movie. Like tone is such a problem with this movie. Like like the tone is supposed to be dark comedy when we start off.
Yeah.
But it's now it's serious, but it's still it's nothing lands with me all the way through this thing.
Yeah, at this point I'm just waiting for everyone to die. This is one of the movies that we've watched. I've mentioned in the past some movies I just have to see how much more longer we have to go. Luckily this was only an hour and a half. I think this is about an hour in now, and
it felt like to me. I mean, it was just, by the time you get to the unnecessary rape scene, it extends the length of the movie.
Yeah. So we see the Pollo, or the main rapist guys, we didn't say this before, but they set Gringo on fire. But Eli Roth's character is now
oh my god,
dead and
we
gone.
Skipped over the bear Jew getting set on fire.
Yeah, and I guess he had a last little moment of pang as he watched this poor girl get raped. So he throws a rock at the main rapist, and of course, gets set on fire. I was like, oh, too little, too late.
Yeah. mean, that doesn't excuse your eyeliner, buddy. Well, I mean, like, what can you do when you're trapped waist deep in rubble? You know,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's weird. You mentioned it early in the movie, like the earthquake should be the antagonist of this movie, and it's not. It turns into rape gangs, and I don't
Yeah.
want to think about rape gangs in an earthquake movie.
Yeah, yeah. I was just thinking, oh, this is gonna be a survival situation, and then, as I'm watching this, I was like, this is like everyone is just horrible to each other after a disaster. That's what I kept thinking.
Yeah. Again, Eli is better than this. He's made movies better than this. He's demonstrably better than this. But okay, so we've got firemen and we've got our two lady survivors at this point. We've got our two lady survivors of the sisters, Kylie and Monica.
Yeah,
And our other survivors at this point in the feature are Pollo.
yeah.
Is the only lad in the group that's not dead.
Right, and so they come across a small little community that's kind of blocked themselves off on this street. They've set up there's this gate with a lock on it, and Pollo and Monica and Kylie and the firemen come to this gate and they say, "Let us in. We're not criminals." The one lady's at the gate and she's holding a gun on them. She goes, "Oh, you would say something like that." And they're like, "No, we don't have tattoos." And they start lifting up their shirts and showing that they don't have tattoos, I guess, that gang members or prisoners would have. And an old man.
I'm glad
yeah.
I know this because I hope that this is a cultural thing. Like if you and I ever go to Chile and party, it'll never happen. It'd be fun. But if we ever do, cover up your tattoos because they're
Yeah.
going to think that you're a criminal.
Yeah. That's I'll just have to wear long sleeve shirts everywhere I go.
I know as I recall, all of your tattoos are charming, but they won't see them as that.
Yeah. Oh, that the Cthulhu tattoo. That's a sign of MS-13.
You're an Italian. Don't they eat a lot of octopus? They don't understand a lot of other cultures.
So there's an old guy that argues with the woman behind the gate, and he's like, "I'm going to let him in because we need to be friendly to people." And she's like, "No, they're prisoners. Don't let them in." So the old guy opens the gate. Pollo enters with his hands up, and the woman shoots Pollo in the belly.
Yeah, which is the best place to shoot Pollo.
Yeah.
So Pollo starts dying. I cheered a little bit because I fucking hate Pollo. And they're like, "Oh shit, Pollo shot through and through the gut, and there's rape gangs on our heels. Let's take him to the alley and put him behind a bunch of trash cans," which is exactly what happened.
That is exactly what happened. They piled a bunch of trash cans and like a board over them, and they're like, "We'll be back." I was like, "No."
And they're like, "Shh, be quiet, Pollo. Rape gangs are on their way." I don't know if they're into fat sack Gandaphanophalocus people, but they might rape you.
Yeah. So just stay off your phone and be quiet.
Whatever you do, don't illuminate the alley with your cell phone.
Zach Galifianakis, he gets on his phone and decides to call his papa, and he talked briefly. They obviously got a little bit of cell phone service back for him to do this, conveniently enough, and so he talks to his dad a little bit, and he breaks up, the phone drops the call, and then he's sitting there as the rape gang starts to pass by, and of course his phone rings, and it's his father calling, and it just totally gives away his position, and they pretty much just, shoot him.
Shoot him in his fat, bald Galifianakis head.
And we don't see it per se, we just hear the shot ring out as the group, as Kylie, Monica, and the firemen continue to run away. So they know that Zach is dead, or I should say Pollo is dead. And
I like Zach better in a way.
Let's just call him Zach. Now they all find a church, and they run into the church with a rapist right on their heels. And the rapists are like trying to get through the church, and they're trying to play to the priest's old sensitivities, I guess, about having an altar boy that was one of the guys who were the rapists. And
I think he even says something along the lines of, "Hey, you baptize me, preacher, let me in." And then he doesn't give it even a second. The preacher is thinking about it for a second, and then he's like, "Let me in so we can rape and kill these people."
Yeah, it's like, dude, you almost had him. But so the priest decides to turn around and they start heading towards the altar, and that's when we get another aftershock, and of course that causes the doors to open, and so the rapists are now back on their heels. Priest opens an underground access hatch near the altar. They all get in there before the aftershock rumbles again, and a big block of rubble blocks the entrance to the tunnel that they're in, or the basement where they're at.
Yeah,
So
they're making their way into the sewers to meet the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. They don't never meet them, but they go down. They're going down into the sewers.
So
I don't know why sewers have to be part of a movie.
Yeah, I think these are the tunnels, or the beginning of the tunnels that are kind of mentioned earlier in the film that go from the church to the cemetery or whatever. But it doesn't really matter. They're someplace. And so they open up another hatch that goes even deeper, and the priest says, "Oh, these goes into some tunnels." And of course, Monica's freaking out; she doesn't want to go in the tunnels. And the fireman descends first, and then the priest and Kylie descend. But again, as with everything in these horror movies or disaster movies, something has to give, and the ladder inexplicably breaks. And we see the priest just goes clump, dies immediately from a 10-foot drop, and Kylie,
the ladder gets away. And
yeah,
Kylie, whose cocaine is starting to ebb, she hasn't had a bump in a minute. She falls down to the ground, and her and Fireman are down in the sewer together.
Yeah, she somehow impales her leg on a pipe that doesn't have any real sharp edges on it. I'm just wondering how. Because it didn't even look like a long fall, to tell you the truth.
No.
They didn't establish how deep this went. But she gets impaled. She's crying. And, of course, Monica can't get down there in any kind of fast time. So she has to try to formulate a rope to climb down into this tunnel area. And so
she finds a secondary ladder, but it doesn't. Yeah. None of this matters at this point.
Yeah, and then we see Fireman. Kylie's of course shaking and traumatized. The fireman pulls the pole out of her leg and
like literally, the like little league baseball bats that kids use, that at the widest girth is through her leg.
Yeah, and that's
out like it doesn't matter, you know? And then blood spews everywhere, and then Miss Izzo is like, "Oh, more cocaine, bourbon."
I'll be back. I got a little bump up here, honey. I'm gonna bring it down with me. But
I got a key bump, sweetie. Just hold on.
Fireman, being nice, he takes off his coat and puts it around Kylie's shoulders so she can stop shivering. And
what does he have on his bicep?
He has tattoos.
Oh my God! It's a telltale sign of a rapist convict.
Yeah, so
That's a big twist. We need a twist in every movie. This twist is that Fireman, our friend, our ally, our moral center, is actually a tattooed rapist.
Yeah, and he goes from being a helpful fireman to a evil rapist fireman. Just a 180.
We should really he's not a rapist. He's more of a murderer. He loves the murder way more than the rape.
Yeah. I apologize to rapists out there.
Yeah. God forbid we offend the good name of rapist.
Yeah.
This motherfucker loves his murder way more than his rape, because he as soon as he realizes Kylie and he have substantial eye contact, and then they realize, oh, you figured me out, I figured you out, you know that I want to kill you, you know that you're about to be killed.
Yeah, and it's just like, oh, because I heard there was a little twist, and I was still waiting for this twist to happen, and I kind of knew it was going to happen from everything that was leading up. I was like, oh, I bet this guy's not a real fireman, but it didn't even matter. What it would have been better if the fireman turned out to be a convict or a prisoner, but he turned out to be not a murderous, raping convict. He's an actual good person, and he was helping these girls, and he could have gotten killed some other way, obviously, but, they just immediately turned a 180 turn on here and made him an evil killer.
Yeah, I mean, in my movie, he would have been in there for a marijuana conviction, and he would have saved the fucking day. I'm not interested in murder or rape. I'm here to help y'all through.
Right, and so you're right. Kylie and Fireman have this stare down, and then Monica's making her way down into the tunnels, and she gets down there and she doesn't see either of them, and she starts using her cell phone to light up the tunnels to find them both, and she's calling Kylie's name, and she comes across Kylie's body. I'm not sure what exactly happened to her because
it looks like he stuffed a bunch of drywall into her mouth. It's kind of like what it looked like to me. Like her whole mouth is filled with something that shouldn't be there. Drywall, mortar, dirt, something. Or he killed her in some way awful. And Monica sees her and she is understandably upset by the, like death of her sister, even though she's from somewhere like the Ukrainian Slovakistan or somewhere.
Hungarian. She's Hungarian.
That makes tons of sense.
Yeah.
And Fireman says, like, don't worry. Hey, I know this is upsetting. I killed her super quick. She didn't suffer at all. And I would never in my life think about raping anybody. And so Kylie's dead. She's good and dead. Yeah, that's what you get for doing cocaine and shots.
yeah, you're paying for your sins, honey. So we get the showdown between Fireman, who just turned into an antagonist at the very end here. So it wasn't like we were building up to a moment where we'd see a fight between the murderer that's been stalking them the whole time. It's like, nope, it's just this guy that she's got to fight now, on top of aftershocks happening and rubble pouring down on them both. And
and it was a confounding transition because like we didn't give a shit about him as a good guy or a bad guy. So the fact that he's now a bad guy is like, okay, is this almost over?
Yeah,
because I want to go to bed. That's kind of the feeling that you get at this point in the movie.
Yeah, and they have their showdown, and so he's swinging at her with an axe, she's biting and clawing at him, and another aftershock happens, and he falls, and she scrambles away, but I guess he drops the axe, she picks up the axe, and before he can do anything, she chops him in the chest with it, and he dies.
She cleaves that what do you call that bone in the middle?
Sternum.
Sternum. Yeah, she cleaves that sternum like you're trying to make a wish during Thanksgiving. Is how she does it.
Yeah.
So Monica kills the last bad guy, and what we're established with now is that Monica is the moral center of the movie. She didn't want her sister to get raped or date raped or to succumb to alcohol poisoning. She's a good person. So she's going to make it. She's going to get to the surface and she's going to live.
Yes, and that's what she does. She crawls through the tunnels, and eventually we hear the sound of an ocean, and we see sand, and she is this beautiful ocean, this beautiful beach, and she comes out, and she just...
But wait a minute. Remember our friend foreshadowing that's delivered into every horror movie like a donkey dick in your mouth. And okay, this is where foreshadowing comes in.
Yeah, and she laughs and cries and then falls down on the beach, and then she gets up and starts limping away, and then we start hearing this loud rumble, and the camera kind of pans up a little bit. You see the beach is now doesn't have any water, like the water's receded, and we look up, and a tidal wave, something at a deep impact, is rushing towards the beach. Monica looks behind her and tries to run for her life, but obviously doesn't make it as the tsunami crashes on the beach, and we go to black.
Yes, we cut to black, and it like 99.99% of the film's After Effects budget was spent on this wave of the tsunami wave. This tsunami wave only exists in our imagination because we live in a world where all of us have looked at footage on YouTube of an actual tsunami. It doesn't look like this. It doesn't look like this ridiculous wave that's Empire State Building high with tankers and octopus and Cthulhu and fucking King Kong is in there suspended in the wave marching towards our protagonist, and it just wants to kill her. And then the movie ends.
Yeah.
And I'm left with a whole bunch of feelings that I will be kind of mulling over until my dying day, really.
Yeah, this is I was saying the same thing. I was like, look, we've all seen tsunami footage now. We know they're not waves like this. It's just pretty much giant rushes of water that are just devastating. But they're
They
not.
crescend. They don't.
Yeah.
They don't. They don't transcend physics
Yeah,
and reality.
unless you have a 2 mile wide meteor crashing into the ocean, yeah, that's going to create some kind of wave action like that. But this is an earthquake. This kind of wave does not happen. But anyways, I guess that was their money shot at the end, and that's what they needed. So there it is.
I suppose so. There's a lot of natural disasters that have impacted impoverished third world communities across the world, and this movie knew that happened when they made it, and they still fucking made it. There's a lot of reasons for me to feel the contempt that I feel towards this fucking.
Yeah, this is a morally bankrupt movie. It was. I felt this is like one of the only movies we've watched so far that has been a waste of my time. That I felt like I just wasted an hour and a half watching something. So
I can't disagree with you. My notes had words like pus infested cyst of a movie and bad comedy, and then it transitions into ultra violence and it furls around us. It's just it was an interesting experience. I hate the virtue signal.
yeah,
As a horror movie fan, you live in the world of the edge. You live on the edge. You live on in this world of political correctness be damned. But this thing was offensive to me, and I live in offense. That's the world I live in. It bothered me.
yeah. It just wasn't a good movie. That's what I say. Were there any redeeming aspects about it?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm a creative, and I never go into this thinking that the creatives meant any ill will towards us, the audience. And we established this early in the podcast. I do not want to become a movie reviewer. I don't like them. I don't like their ilk. I don't like people that just shit on art because they can't be that. But this movie bothered me. I can't. I can't tell you it didn't.
Yeah, it was. I mean, yeah, it was a movie. What can I say? It's a movie, and there's my movie review.
Movie.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The horror movie aspect, I guess, was just man's inhumanity to man, but it was more of a disaster movie, to be honest. I don't know. I think it was kind of misclassified. Maybe it's just because Eli Roth's name was on it that maybe the people who were tagging the stuff just automatically put a horror tag on it. But who knows?
I don't know. I don't know what their intention was. Whatever it was, they missed the mark.
Oh, so what do we have for next week?
Oh, let me scroll down to the end of my notes here. Next up on Cinematic Suffering, we'll review Aliens: Zone of Silence.
Oh,
it's a study yourself. It's a goddamn found footage movie.
Oh yes.
All right. Apparently, I tried to watch this one already because the movie is at the 20-minute mark when I try to watch it again. So I failed that soon. And the only reason I failed at the 20-minute mark is because I got sleep apnea and I fell asleep at 10 minutes. So we're in for a good time next time. I'm going to have to get this, so I'm going to have to try to watch it 17 times between now and then.
I established before I do enjoy my found footage films, but you had me like somewhat excited because you said Aliens. I was like, oh, we're reviewing we're going to watch Aliens, and then you're like,
Zone of Silence.
There it is. You had me at Aliens and then lost me at Zone of Silence. So, okay, well, this has been another episode of Cinematic Suffering. I just want to thank everyone for joining us. I want to thank everyone for the new Facebook likes, the new Twitter likes, and everybody who's been the millions of messages we've been getting. And please,
literally a million.
Literally millions. I can barely
deal with all of them. I agree. This has been so much fun for me. like Jason and I have been friends for a very long time. This has been a late in life opportunity for us to reconnect and talk about movies, and we love nothing more. Sharing it with all of y'all has been magical. I'm so glad that y'all are along for the ride, and I appreciate you listening to it.
Yeah, there's a lot coming up that I'm kind of looking forward to as far as movies, but until then, we have to slog through what we have on the list as we go down this weird road from A to Z. So
the next one is a Blair Witch meets Area 51.
Awesome. Well, that's it. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Cinematic Suffering. We will talk at you next week.
You're Jason.
And I'm Clay.
You're Clay. You're both people. How dare you? Love y'all. Take care.
Yeah,
Peace.
Take care, guys. Bye. Hey, guys. Just a few plugs and shout-outs before we end this episode. Clay is an extremely talented and twisted comic artist, and you should visit his pride and joy, hboys.com. That's HBOYZ.com. If you're a fan of death and black metal, check out Jason's band Gravehill on all social media platforms, as well as his doom metal project, Stygian Crown. Music was provided by Face X Hugger. Check out Face X Hugger on Bandcamp and Twitter for more synthwave, horror-themed music. Questions, comments, and hate mail should be directed to our Twitter account @CinematicSuffer. Thanks for listening.